And of course, to improve and to tell people also that organic is on its way and it's constantly improving, but we're not already there. It's not that we have the one solution and then we can stop working. Yes, and one, I think, very important aspect for communication is to have someone who can bring in an outsider's perspective, because yes, we have had several times the situation that we thought something was really very bad and a real crisis, and in the end nobody was interested in it because it was very complicated, and so people just didn't understand what was going on, and the other way around. So now I have to speed up. So I won't be able to explain very much what we are doing. As I have explained before, what BNN is mostly working on crises that might affect the whole organic sector and not a company crisis, like here's the example of glass fragments in baby food that's usually affecting one company. Of course, that's very bad, but that's not what we would work on. So here I want to show again what is meant by that it is a cycle. So a lot of the elements that might be learned from a crisis will then become prevention and preparation measures. Like we have a pesticide monitoring, and now that's a prevention and preparation measure, so that we will see if there is something going wrong. But in fact, it was set up because 10 years ago there were some detections of residues in organic food where there was the suspicion that this might not be organic. So that's why we felt, and I think most companies are doing that today, that also residue analysis should be done on organic food in order to make sure as good as possible that nothing is in there that shouldn't be. So to conclude, you have to be prepared, because there's the crisis, you don't have time to think about who is in charge of what, and also you have to have, for example, deputies and things like this. And it's very important to stay in touch with your stakeholders and what they are thinking. And yes, avoid creating unrealistic images. I think we are not doing that, but perhaps sometimes other people are creating these images, and perhaps we didn't speak out loudly enough to say, well, it's not right. It's not like this, because of course it's nice to have all these very beautiful and idealistic pictures, but if it's not true, that's really a big threat for the whole sector. So, thank you so far, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much for your interesting presentation. I think it's really very relevant. I used to be in a BioSwiss certification panel, and I think it's in the crisis, as you said, during the first thing, in a crisis you cannot set up a crisis plan. It's really the question of prevention, which often is missing, and the third stage. I also think it's important to learn lessons of it. And, have you comments, questions, or own experiences? Quick. I mean, the question for me is a bit, you are an umbrella organization of processors and traders, and how do you cooperate? I mean, in Germany there are all these label organizations.
Yes, it's true. I missed it. Yes, we have the BOLW, our umbrella organization, and they are also, if it's something affecting also them, we also have a crisis management team with the farmers' organizations through BOLW, our umbrella organization. Okay. And then we work very closely together with telephone conferences, for example, and planning the steps and who is doing what. Yes, of course, that's very important because a lot of the times it's affecting them as well. But what is missing, if it's something more on the international level, and of course, a lot of our members are traders, so also something that happens in India or I don't know where might also affect our companies. So this is somehow missing so far.
Somebody known experience, particular? Okay, I'll let you. Yes. Thank you very, very much now. And we come now to another theme that is from, I have to read the name that I can, Merve Ayten Kılıç. She's speaking about mainly permaculture and how this can be applied in schools. And I like this approach because you are an architect and yes. You call yourself a permaculture designer, yes. which is nice. I would like that this is much more brought together. So I'm really looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you. Firstly, welcome all. As my moderator said, I'm an architect and also I'm a permaculture designer. Now I'm working on Izmir Institute of Technology as a research assistant. It's my project that I present to you. Okay, let's begin. Its topic, build environment, children and natural habitat. The study searches one of the ways of rebuilding relationship between children and natural built environment via permaculture design system. The permaculture took a major role here as a tool used for strengthening tie between nature and children. This presentation is composed of 4 major parts. I will start with the problem and theoretical framework, then the case study implemented in the secondary of School of Karacaoğlan district in Bornova, Izmir in Turkey, will be presented in the third part. Lastly, conclusion will be introduced to you. In most of the cities, built environment today bears the certain problem arose from designers in which children's presence and perspective are ignored. It's shaped by presumption of adults, not by children's perceptions. According to the Piaget hypothesis, children do not represent the miniature of their adults. Having been a child once does not mean that adults identify the children well. Adults create an idealized model of children in their mind, yet it does not represent the existed child's experience. Thus, designing according to the adult's idealized model, it's not appropriate for children. As a result, lack of child's perspective in the design process, the major problem of built environment in the cities is the decrease or lack of natural areas where children can create relationship with nature as safe open space such as schoolyard, public park, playground, garden, balcony, square, recreational area, urban forest, etc. Decreasing natural areas causes the certain problems such as children grow as isolated from nature and spend most of their time in the interior space rather than playing in the streets. Thus, these children lose their health and get addicted to the technology. Another problem is that children have the relationship with society and nature in very limited way. This makes the social perception of children. The children exist in the built environment over the social relationship that they build with built environment and natural environment. Playing in the streets, so playing in these streets is essential for the children in order to establish these relationships. Okay, as a result, children grow in built environment without awareness of and love of nature. There can be diverse reasons behind parents' fear of security, insufficient or lack of outdoor playground, and lack of interest and awareness to the nature. Being relationship with nature is required part of child's development. Children connect with nature to learn with nature, spend time to play, and meet the need of love. Children build this connection via playing game in the natural environment. Children can make the elements of natural environment a part of their game, such as slopes, rocks, and hills are natural elements that children have cope with and play with it. Vegetation can be imagined as shelter, for example, for a children. Trees are other elements for climbing. Therefore, children need natural environment to complete their mental, psychological, and physiological development. Okay, whatever the reason is, ignored, deteriorated, or neglected relationship among children, natural and built environment is a worldwide problem today. So, permaculture design system, if I introduce you somehow, the permaculture design system is not a teaching method. Bill Mollison, who is the father of permaculture design system, defines it as to create systems that are ecologically sound and economically viable, which provide their own needs, do not exploit or pollute, and therefore sustainable in long term. Permaculture has strict three ethical bases which differentiate from the other ecocentric, deep environmental approaches. One of it, care of earth. The care of earth refers caring of natural resources. This is the major ethical basis of permaculture, defined as care of living and non-living things, soil, species and their varieties, atmosphere, forest, microhabitat, animals, waters. It implies harmless and rehabilitative activities, active conservation, ethical and frugal use of sources, and right livelihood, of course. Secondly, the care of people is an ethical approach for preparing a healthy and safe future for everyone. It characterizes the caring humanity and its basic needs without referring it as the center of the universe. Lastly, return to surplus. Mollison again described this as contribution of surplus time, money, energy to achieve aims to earth and people. This means that after we can take our basic needs and design our system the best way of our ability, we can extend our influence and energies to helping others and achieve that aim, for example. This study aims to rebuild the deteriorated and ignored relationship between both children, natural habitat, and children-built environment via permaculture design system. It intends to create a garden, playground, and outdoor classroom appropriated and designed by children. In this study, permaculture design system is an essential strategy that provided children to learn from nature and makes children closer to the natural habitat. The first reason of using permaculture design as a strategy is its philosophy and assesses the humanity as a part of nature rather than seeing it as an owner. The second reason is the ability of system which provides children to equip skills of producing their own food and sustain lifestyle without any harm to nature. These are strong conceptual bases for children if they consider as the adults' future generation, you know. This is the place of implementation area. Karacaoğlan Mahallesi Ortaokulu in Turkey and in English secondary district of secondary school of district in Bornova. Okay, I will a little bit speed up. We designed some workshop. One of the workshop is workshop 1. We are designing school garden together. The workshop was composed of 2 sections named Think and Design. Each section will 40 minutes. In the first section, the game was played with all children in the seminar room and at the same time. The purpose of the game is attract their attention to think about designing school garden and concentrate them on designing especially with reusing waste materials, for example. I want to introduce a part of this game which we played with children. Firstly, a small portion of picture on each waste material was appeared on the screen as you see. Secondly, facilitator asked 2 questions: what is it and what do we use for? Thirdly, the answers were collected randomly and let children express their ideas freely. For example, when the children saw the portion of these used balls, they answered it's for rainy days, for example. When they saw the whole picture, on the next slide, that shows the balls used as a flower pot, students were become surprising and started to think differently. They realized that the used balls can be used another purpose, for example. Now, I will continue to my workshop. In the second section, children were asked to depict their dreams about the school garden on a white paper via drawing pictures and colored pencils. The target of this section was to determine design tools that key elements, which I called them, which will be facilitated in the design of school garden. Let's see them. These are the products of children's pictures. Their imagined garden. Okay. The workshop 1 provided children to change their perception about school garden. For analysis of pictures in the second section, the list of key elements was initially prepared according to permaculture methods. These are the key elements for our designed school garden, which comes from children's. Then the questionnaire is composed of totally 20 open-ended questions, including 4 parts: information about herself, himself, information about her home environment, information about her school, his school, information about playground. The object of questionnaire was learning more about children and their dream school garden. The first page of questionnaire covers 4 parts. It was in Turkish, of course. I'm sorry that I'm using this. This is the second page of the questionnaire, and the last part of questionnaire page left them to make pictures to idealize their models, for example. Okay. As a result of questionnaire, it's observed that most of children have tendency to connect with nature. On the other hand, children suffer from insufficient play area. They are willing to learn with nature and play with nature. However, they could reach the nature because of built environment, of course. Workshop 2. This is the lecture of permaculture method, which I introduced to children. How is permaculture method, what is it, what is its philosophical background, and what is the method is. These are the examples what I am teaching for children. For example, compost, hügel culture, and what pattern understanding zoning somehow. like that. This is the examples of playground area which are harmless way to nature to produce. Okay, this is still our permaculture design project plans. Okay, our third workshop was about tree planting. It was first step to produce our school garden. These are our children's students. They are seeding plants. This is our, this is children's imagined about their trees. And last workshop was workshop for these. This is the major step to implement the school garden. Our permaculture garden looks like that at the first time. We explained some permaculture method to children, for example, seedling of plants, seed bombs, rice beds, herb spread, and this is our outdoor classroom. I will a little bit speed up. Okay, to conclude, according to result of case study, rebuilding the relationship between child and natural environment is possible via permaculture education, which we give them in appropriate time. And as an architect opinion, to able to reflect children's presence and perspective to design of built environment, a platform for collaboration that can bring related profession users together is needed. And the permaculture designers can be into this collaboration. And at the end, we cannot demand or wait for children with, knowing about organic food without giving them a nature environment, I mean. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who wants to ask a question? Yes, French.
So first, congratulations for this lecture. Thank you very much. It was a very good idea. Combine the school garden with the permaculture methods, but it is not permaculture garden.
Yes.
It is a school garden which use the permaculture methods. But congratulations, it's a very good idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much also.
May I ask you, that's part of your study at this university, and in which way you involve schools, and I mean, in a way, how do you approach them? Is there an uptake already of these ideas, or was it just during this project? Can you?
Actually, it was my master degree project. Okay, I'm architect, and I'm known this being an architect. It's not about just constructing something. It's about all life. We produce not just buildings, we produce also life to people. So we have to think about what is the daily life routines, what is the earth actually. So when I'm thinking myself, I want to see I want to see the world another glass. So in this time I met with permaculture design system and I get the course. Then I mixed to my work. Okay.
Thank you very much. Now let's come to the fourth presentation. That's Lydia Oberholtzer. Also about urban organic agriculture in urban areas and the state of urban farming in the United States. Quite an important theme now, more in towns. So I'm I'm involved in a project in Europe about urban agriculture, and I'm really interested to hear what's going on in the United States. So.
Hi. Thank you for having me. And if I know that agriculture in the United States is very different than parts of Europe, so if there's anything I need to clarify or if it doesn't seem right, let me know. I'm a researcher at Penn State. I focus on alternative agriculture systems, marketing systems, including organic systems. I want to talk to you today about some current research we did on urban farms in the United States. And it was undertaken in collaboration with my colleague Carolyn Dimitri at New York University and Andy Pressman, who is part of NCAT's ATRA program, which focuses on providing extension and technical assistance to small farms in the United States. And the research was funded by USDA's research program. Urban farming, I think, in Europe as well as the United States has been kind of a trendy topic. It's been gaining a lot of attention. There's a lot of young folks coming out of local food systems really interested in doing urban agriculture. And the cities have also slowly been taking up policies to address urban agriculture, sometimes for the benefit of urban ag farms, and sometimes it's not for the benefit of urban farms. And there's been very little research in the United States on urban farming, but you can see some of the promises of urban agriculture to those who are interested in it. You know, reducing food waste and food miles, enhancing the food security of folks in the cities. Sorry. There's a number of challenges that are probably not unique to the United States, but are unique to the urban interface. They can be zoning issues, folks having a hard time locating farms in vacant lots or on rooftops. We know that urban farmers in the United States also lack access to credit and capital, which is true of many small farms in the United States. But they also face issues such as environmental contamination and limited access to waters, things unique to the urban interface. One of the things I wanted to focus on today is the challenges for education and extension, our technical assistance provision through university land grants. Some of the challenges for urban farming is that traditional extension staff in the United States have always been focused on rural farming issues, so there's a lack of focus on urban farming systems. There's also a lot of restrictions in terms of funding and time limitations on extension. It's not a, you know, they go through budget cuts all the time. And then on top of that is the fact that extension is not very well versed in organic production. So any organic farms in the urban farms have both organic limitations as well as, you know, education not focused on urban farming. So some of the research questions I want to go through today are basic ones, because this is really the first national study of urban farms in the United States. What are the characteristics of organic urban farms? What are their challenges, and what are their educational needs? We initiated the national study in 2013 to look at the risks and economics unique to urban farming and to examine their technical assistance needs. This presentation focuses on a small subset, on those that are using organic production methods. We used a mixed methods approach in the study. We did a nationwide survey, and then we focused on interviews with key stakeholders in 15 cities. So we focused on these 15 cities. We tried to get a geographic diversity, a diversity in terms of urban farm policies, and in terms of the development of their urban farming system. So Washington, D.C., where I live, has a very small urban farming community, whereas a place like Austin, Texas has a huge urban farming, or not huge, but large for our urban farming areas. The survey included 35 questions. We asked them things about their business practices, their demographics, their access to land, which is a major issue. We used a snowball sample because we don't have a national list of urban farms anywhere in the United States, so we needed to reach out and get respondents from their networks. We had 315 surveys from urban and peri-urban farms, so those would be the farms that are either within the city boundaries or right outside the city boundaries, because in a place like Washington, D.C., you may not only have like 5 farms in the city, but you could have quite a few just right outside in the suburbs. 8% were actually certified organic, and then 24% were legally exempt from organic certification because they sell less than $5,000 a year, but they do follow the standards and they sell or donate their products as organic. So they're included in this sample. And while that may not seem like a lot of farms in the United States, you probably know that we don't have a lot of organic farms overall. I mean, it's a small group, but our percentage of farms that are organic in general is small. So just some brief characteristics about the farms. Not surprisingly, their size is small. The median size is 1 acre. I don't know how many hectares. 1 acre. 78% are 5 acres or less. Very small, not surprisingly, 71% had sales less than $10,000. But when you look at their size of sales per acre using a median, it's not it's not as bad of a picture. The average sales per acre was $38,500, and the median sales was $10,800. So this median is consistent with other small market gardens in the United States. The average farmer is younger than the average farmer in the United States. The average farmer in the United States is 57 years old. And as I told you, it's a very trendy topic in the United States. A lot of young people coming out and farming in the cities. So the average age there is 45 years. A lot of beginning farmers, 40% had 5 years or less in agriculture. This surprised me the most. Most were white. 81% were white, because in our cities you expect when you're doing urban farming that you may have some more representation from the cities that you're in, and that was not true of the farmers who responded to the survey. Half were male, half were female. And we see some issues here with land tenure. We asked them about land tenure, and while 55% owned some of the land that they were farming, 23% were on short-term leases and 21% were on informal arrangements. So those are pretty vulnerable farms right there. The short-term leases are under a year. Informal arrangements, there's no arrangement there. It could be taken away at any moment. 24% also said that some of their land was on public lands. A little bit about their production and marketing. We asked about practices common to urban farm systems. We have a lot using raised beds, container gardens, greenhouses. Fewer were using aquaponics and hydroponics, and the higher capital-intensive farming is lower on this side. But raised bed was the most common used. And the products they're growing, not surprisingly, is fresh vegetables. 63% growing fresh vegetables, 9% fresh fruits, meat and poultry, nursery items. And while we talk a lot about aquaponics and aquaponics in the United States, in terms of urban farms, less than a percent is in fish, and that wouldn't have been organic fish, but less than a percent's in fish. So it's a big topic, but not many folks are doing it yet. And it's not surprising, given the distance, the proximity to the urban consumer markets, that they're using, farmers markets. This is where their products are going, percentage of sales. Community-supported agriculture, which I think is called box schemes here, something like that. They're not using the wholesale markets or the high volume markets. They're really focusing on high value, low volume markets. So we did ask them about their key challenges and risks to look at what they feel they're facing. And not surprisingly, because I think any small, actually any farm in the United States would come up with those first three as their main challenges. Profitability, financing, and production costs. I think most farms in the US have issues with that, but I think it does raise some concern for farmers who have very little experience, the urban farmers, and going into urban farm, if those are the top three issues for urban farms in the United States. Those concerns were followed closely by managing pests, managing weeds, climate, marketing venues. Those are the topics that can be better addressed by technical assistance and extension and education. The top three are harder to deal with and larger issues. And some of the issues that have been raised in the literature, such as environmental contamination, access to water, didn't really raise up as a major concern in the survey, although it did get raised quite a few times in some cities, such as in the Southwest, where we have water issues. Water is a major issue for urban farms, not surprising. And then we asked them, what are the types of technical assistance and information that you need? And you can see that a lot of them have to do with business and financial planning, marketing and distribution. Here, land access and legal issues are one of the things that is discussed a lot in urban ag circles as well, and that's coming out here in land access and zoning and permitting. These farms need help just getting access to land and figuring out how to farm on their farms in the city. But you can see that there's a range of issues that they feel are educational issues that they feel are highly needed in urban areas and are not being addressed. I think there's a void there that needs to be filled by extension. Just to kind of conclude, you know, the urban farms, organic urban farms, bring something even further along than general urban farms in the United States. While it brings access to fresh fruits to the city, organic farm can bring environmentally friendly food for urban consumers as well. And we know that the urban consumer is interested in organic products. But I think the concerns about farm viability and profitability do raise some questions about how well organic farms are really integrating into the urban setting, and the fact that many of the farms that answered, many of the organic farms, are below the $5,000 threshold for certification. I think you know, there are some questions there about why larger urban farms aren't certifying organic, because we do have quite a few larger urban farms in our sample. And while a few of the state's extension folks have started to kind of move over towards urban farming, I know in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Extension has opened up an urban farming center, and there's other places where Extension has, you know, started to look at urban farming. There's definitely a need there. I think the survey showed that there's a need for you know, different types of technical assistance that those extension folks could bring into the urban interface and fill that void. So I think that's it. Thank you.
So please address questions or comments. Yes, please. Say your name and country.
My name is Liv Solendal. I'm from Norway. Why do you think that there is an increasing numbers of urban farmers, even if there actually are very many problems and they do not earn much money?
I think, you know, let me think about that for a minute.
The main reason?
Yeah, I think it's driven mainly by not so much consumers, because I don't think the consumer yet is linked in ways to the urban farm in most areas that you might have for something like a farmer's market. You know how a farmer's market is the consumer demand is very clear There's a market right there. I don't think that that is the way that the urban farm is being motivated yet. But I think it's more from the interest of young farmers in the United States wanting to farm in the cities in which they live. I think they get interested in farming, they want to move to the city, and I think it's a hot topic. There's also the other side of wanting to provide food for food access in many urban areas, food security. So many of these farms do like educational programs in low-income areas. So there's a couple different pulls, but I don't think consumer demand is one of those pulls, unfortunately.
Yes?
Excuse me, my name is Kon. I come from Thailand. I'm also urban farming in Thailand.
Hi.
And I have something to ask you and something to exchange with you.
Okay.
Because of, I just want to know about your sampling. About your sampling.
How did we do it?
No, what they are common characteristics about their personal, you know. It's like where they come from. They come from middle class people, or they come from originally the farmer, or something like
Where
that.
do they come from?
Yeah, I mean
We didn't ask them about their income, because if you mean the farmer's income and where they come from?
My point is just like I want to exchange with you because of in my country, you know, most of the people who change their own life to be a farmer in the urban area, they come from the middle class people, and you know what the goals of them. This is not like a profitable task, but they just start for another life that is more happier. It's happier life.
Yeah, I understand, and I don't think I can make a general character. I mean, I think that part of that happens in the United States. We didn't get a whole picture of that, so I don't want to like say for sure this is. But I think anecdotally, some folks are leaving a job and going to farm in the city because they want to farm in the city and they want to do it. Many want to provide access to fresh fruits and vegetables to low-income people in the United States. We know that most don't have farming experience already. So they're not, I mean, those farmers, they're not coming from rural areas to farm in the city. Those farmers are staying out in the rural areas and farming on their family's farm. So I don't know if you could say, is it middle income, high income, low income folks coming, but they're definitely, I think there's a lot of folks changing jobs or coming out of college and going to apprentice on an urban farm and then wanting to set up their own urban farm. A lot of young people.
They have another feedback for their values, like they can get some income from another channel, like as an educational.
Most have income from another source. That we do know, and I would say that a good number of them are motivated by their farms becoming profitable. We certainly talk to enough farmers to know that they would like their farms at some point to be profitable. You know, they're trying high value-added honey and trying all different types of things. It's very much in the incubation stage, I think, in many places.
May I also ask you on what are the kind of, let's say, educational needs and what propositions you made for who should do what kind or offer what kind of training, education, in which form, new media, or there are some cities where, for example, in Zurich, the town nurseries, or in Lausanne, offer specific courses for urban gardening and things like this. Did you make, let's say, 2, 3 most important recommendations? What could be done to regarding training and
well, it's very different in every city. So, and it has to do with how much the state university has become involved in. It's very different because our extension system is through the state university system, and so you can't just come up with one answer because in the Midwest, there may not be a lot of big cities where urban farming is important, but certainly in places like Philadelphia, like New York, I mean, New York's kind of hard because NYU isn't the land-grant university. The land-grant is way outside of the city. So they don't have extension folks in New York that can focus on education. In places like Philadelphia, they have always had folks that have been involved in agriculture, but they've been focused outside of the city. So bringing their focus into the city, developing networks of farmers, because we know that the farmers often learn best from other urban farmers and not from extension, and then kind of putting the extension information on top of that network is an important, especially with such limited funding for extension, I think that would be an important kind of strategy for extension in cities.
Okay, maybe some contributions from or experiences from the floor.
The United States government? They have a focus on, I mean, it depends on who is running USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture. They have, you know, over the past time period, been more focused, since Obama's been in, have been more focused on small and middle-sized farmers. I wouldn't say that it's urban farms per se, but because urban farms, I think, can really fit nicely into the other group of small and middle-sized farms that are on suburban areas, that there is a focus on those folks, some focus.
They cannot afford it. Very small area and profit, very small profit, so how can they get the permission to do the cultivation and also pay the taxes?
Yeah, it's very challenging, I think, for the farmers who are starting up urban farming, and most have some other form of funding. But that's true of most small farms in the United States. Most small farms are not, even in other areas, are not, you know, independent and cannot keep, you know, they need to have outside work and outside health care, or have had to have outside health care until recently. So I think that they're as challenged as many small farms in the United States, but have another challenge on top of that because of the city policies that come down, the zoning and the legal aspects. But the U.S. wouldn't get involved in those, you know, that's like a city, that's a municipal issue.
Okay, thank you very much. So, just one thing, what I think would be interesting there are also possibilities of private initiatives to promote this kind of urban gardening in training. For example, in Switzerland, there's now a group of also from some CSAs, community supported agriculture initiatives, who now develop a kind of pilot curriculum which they propose for the professional education of gardeners, because usually the garden education is just for big size, very technical, and they got some money from a private foundation to start a kind of pilot curriculum course a whole year, and with the goal to have finally a real let's say, education in urban gardening, which is officially recognized. They're not yet there, but I'm convinced they can do it, or just as my personal contribution to this. Okay, now thank you very much. I just tried to summarize a bit the themes in here, and somehow I came to three T's. It's about transfer of knowledge in a way which is much more involving the people, either through your children or like you do in the UK, with very interesting approach, even with the cooking, not just producing, and which is all about giving the transfer of knowledge is more than just knowledge. It's also experiences. It's emotional. I think that's really great. I think it's very, very important. We work on that. And then the second thing is somehow trust. How can you build up trust? My crisis management is just one element of it, but I mean, we should come more with a positive approach, more proact and react, and I think somehow trust building starts also if you convince children that is something good, and they go back to their parents and convince them, and I think that's important trust builder. And of course, the way we communicate, but it's not enough, as also you have said. So that's the issue of trust. And the last thing is, you could say, transformation or transition process. What I like in the Food for Life approach is somehow your pragmatic way, in a stepwise going to more organic. When you use also these 3 certification logos, this gold, silver, bronze, and gold thing, which also in, for example, Denmark they use to introduce organic food in the kitchens. They have also this 3 color label system, which maybe really is easier. It's a kind of what I call the stepwise. This process or transition is done in a kind of common learning process, and that's, I think, is very interesting. Is social innovation at the end, and so we can learn a lot of these examples, and we should also exchange much more. So I hope these seeds of change, or they are growing, and I wish you good success in your future work. Thank you.